efficiently than before because the resources don't exist. Don't forget, in the previous administration, not only were the external reserves as high as $43 billion, it was brought down to 23. Then the excess crude account, which was up to $22 billion, was rated to 0, right? So these guys were running on empty. So either out of altruism, out of patriotism, but more than anything else, out of necessity, the government has to be innovative how to use the limited resources they have. And that is where we are. Now to sustain it, because the worst thing that will happen is that the price of oil goes back to $100 a barrel, and everybody will forget about this. We'll just be like the lady who went through labor and said, I will never see my husband again. Then immediately after labor, she's getting pregnant again. So, you know, that whole episode, that have we learned any lessons from this? That's the thing.
Can we institutionalize this? Do you think we have what it takes to institutionalize this process of whistleblowing, of publishing anti-corruption or corrupt practices? In other words, we tell the Yemikali and his team, please give us more of this. Let's undress in public, as the word goes on Market Street, and then get efficiency more in, institutionalize it as a way of curing corruption and getting socio-economic development back on track.
Yes. I think, like in Farid Zakaria's program the other day, said Mandela says that everything is impossible until it's done. These things, all of these things can be done. Before it looks impossible.
I love that chart you have in there. Is that the one on economic milestones as a foundation for the future? Yes.
See, it's quite clear that if you look at GDP, when you look at 2011 all the way to 2018, projected, everything, GDP going down, but then picking up. Aggregate consumption going down, then picking up. Foreign direct investment as high as $8.1 billion came down to 3.1 and picking up again to 3.3. Parallel market was as low as 164, came all the way to 520, is now back at 360 or 370. External reserves went from 32 to 44, down to 23, and we're back to 31. So it's recovering. But it is slow, it's painful, and it is out of necessity. The worst thing that will happen is for us to have a shock, a positive shock. And oil goes back to 120, and then we say, aha, forget it. Did we learn lessons from the pain of the past? The answer to what I can see, Nigerians have never learned the lessons. They are short-sighted. Everybody's looking for his own quick take. But if this time we can say, okay, whether we like it or not, some positive things have happened. Whether we like it or not, the administration was slow to come, slow, they didn't do things in time, and at times they started with the wrong things, but then they changed path, and we are in the correct direction. One thing they need to do is to look at how to bring interest rates down, and which is what the substitution, the refinancing of domestic debt with $3 billion of equivalent could help to reduce and change directionally the interest rate movement so that we can begin to expand economic activity, because right now economic activity is contracted while the exchange rate is appreciating. That is not a natural path. We need to do something about it to get the economy back.
In terms of anti-corruption, let's go back a little bit. We've seen a number of cases, whether against judges or former political office holders and what have you, government officials, but we haven't really seen much of private sector folks being put in handcuffs and put in EFCC's bullion van or black barrier and say, look, these folks were part of these corrupt practices that were investigated. So folks begin to feel this is not really balanced.
No, I don't think so. I think, see, the private sector are probably more sophisticated in the way they handle things, but as the process starts, the first thing is investigation, then there's trial. And when matters are brought to trial, then there's evidence and witnesses. When witnesses are called and they start saying that I gave this and I took this here, and the investigation shows that in a typical money laundering case, money moved from one account to the other, and then it becomes widespread, right? The financial risk is pale compared to the reputation risk. Once you are called to say you received this, right? You have some people who are doing plea bargains who don't want to go down that route. There are those who are corrupting the process so that it doesn't happen, so that you don't get to trial. There are those who corrupt the trial process. There are those who are going to wait to corrupt the appeal process. But the fact that we are even talking about this, 5 years ago, nobody talked about that. Nobody was brought to trial. Now people are being brought to, there are some trials taking place. but they're not getting convictions. So the way the cases are handled, right? The convictions, right? You can only get a conviction because you handled it properly, right? O.J. Simpson was a celebrated case. In the end, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. So you have to, the law enforcement agents have to be determined, have to be efficient in making a case. And if you don't have a case, rather than putting on the pages of newspaper and all that, then don't start. So are the law enforcement agents resourced enough? Do they have the resources to actually carry out this? Professor Ishe Sage said that we don't have enough resources, but with the limited resources we have, can we get some high-profile cases, some what we call trophies? The war against corruption has won no trophy. This is a trophyless battle so far.
So you think Buhari's administration, perhaps President Buhari was biting more than he could chew as far as anti-corruption was concerned? You think he had too much packed in?
No, I think two things. One, sending a signal that this must stop. That's successful. Getting after the bandits who have been raiding the van and all that has not been that successful. But also making sure that the law enforcement agents realize that even they can be on trial is another big success. So generally speaking, compared to when you did nothing, what they say is that if you do nothing, you are guaranteed to fail. If you do something, you might succeed. So the thing is to gamble, and the gamble is paying off. Thank you, boss.
Thank you. This hasn't been a gamble, but of course, it's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chief Executive Officer at Financial Derivatives Company, Bismarck Rewani. Let's come back after the break. The AGOA conference was held in Lome, Togo just about a week ago, and we have a bit of an insight into what was discussed and where is the way ahead for this policy due to expire by the year 2025.